So, like, let me pull this up here. Do you remember this group, Danity Kane? They were a group that was formed on a show called Making the Band. Diddy was the host of the show, but prior to him, there was another gentleman, Lee Perelman, who hosted that show. He was the guy that founded the Backstreet Boys and NSYNC and all these other like boy bands and took a lot of people's money and stuff. And somehow that show was handed over to Diddy, and it was Diddy's Making the Band. Eventually, it got to the season where he was trying to form an all-girl group, and that girl group became Danity Kane. And these are the women that were chosen to be a part of the group. They actually had some pretty good songs. I thought they were pretty cool. Well, it appears that now one of the members of Danity Kane is now coming out against Diddy and is also accusing him of sexual assault. Like, this is crazy. Let's get into this story. There are a number of women that have accused Diddy of sexual assault, but now this is someone that I think a lot of us are a little bit more familiar with. Some of the other women decided not to disclose their names. However, in this particular case, the woman that is coming forward here in the white dress, her name is Dawn, or she was known as Dawn as a part of the group Danity Kane. She is now speaking out. Let's get into this.
One of the most influential figures in American music, Sean Diddy Combs.
I just have to pause it there for a second. There we go.
Did a great job today, ladies.
Today, Richard is back in the spotlight. In a damning new lawsuit, she's accusing her former mentor of sexual battery, forced labor, and gender-motivated violence.
These are all allegations that have become shockingly familiar against Diddy in recent months, as he has faced lawsuit after lawsuit from women and men who have accused him of all manner of bad behavior.
Richard also claims she witnessed him abusing his former girlfriend, Cassandra Ventura, better known as Cassie, on numerous occasions. Attorney Lisa Bloom is representing Richard.
Dawn had the choice to file the case as a Jane Doe, and she chose not to do that. After giving it a fair amount of thought, she wants accountability. She wants justice.
Now, there is something I do want to go ahead and add here, because this is something that I think Diddy's team could try to use against her. So everyone listen to this. One of the things that was revealed about that particular music group and some of Diddy's other musical acts as well is that Diddy wasn't paying these people. So Danity Kane, whether it was Danity Kane, Craig Mack, some of the other acts that he had on the Bad Boy label, Danity Kane said years later in other interviews that they were not being paid by Diddy. So I'm telling you this because this is something that his team could try to say, you're just saying these things against me because you want money. You want payment. Now, some of you wondering, how did he not pay him? Let me explain. Apparently, the show Making the Band, where they were creating this idea of a girl super group or whatever, and they also created a male group later on called Day 26. Apparently, Diddy never really had any thoughts beyond Making the Band. And I mean, he really was not planning to make an album with them or anything, which was the whole purpose of the show. Form the group, let the group go off after, and make an album and tour the world like an artist does. But apparently, according to members of Danity Kane, they said that after they won and the show really took off, once that season was done, there was pressure from the viewers demanding, where's the album? Where's the album? So because of the pressure from the public, according to Danity Kane, that is why Diddy decided, okay, we need to try to put an album together. But according to the girls that were part of the group, they said that Diddy had no plans for them after that. He just wanted to continue the reality show. And they were like, no, we're supposed to make a record. We weren't auditioning just to be on TV. We really want to be a singing group. So because of the pressure from the public, he decided to go forward and help them create an album. And the albums were, they did two of them that I'm familiar with. They were actually really good, pretty decent. And they were also going on tour. But according to the members of the group, they said they had a hit album, they were touring, and they said that Diddy was not paying them. This isn't the first of this to happen. You know, one of the things I think was an issue was that they didn't really read the contract really well. And that happens oftentimes in the music business, particularly with people that are very young and they just want to sign a deal. It happened to New Edition, right? So it's happened to other artists as well. But I'm telling you that because if I'm looking at it from the other perspective, his lawyers could say, well, wait a minute, isn't this the girl from the group that claimed that you didn't pay them what they were supposed to get paid? And they can try to use that against her and say, you're just trying to get money. Let's continue.
An attorney for Combs tells Nightline, quote, in an attempt to rewrite history, Don Richard has now manufactured a series of false claims, all in the hopes of trying to get a payday. Adding, quote, it's unfortunate that Miss Richard has cast their 20-year friendship aside to try and get money from him.
See?
But Mr. Combs is confidently standing on truth and looks forward to proving that in court. Richard is just the latest person to come forward with disturbing allegations against the once celebrated hip-hop mogul.
Diddy has been under criminal investigation for months by federal prosecutors here in New York. And if there are criminal charges, many of them may look a lot like what some of these individuals have been describing.
With this newest lawsuit, this would probably only expedite or increase the amount of allegations and potential witnesses who could testify against Sean Combs.
Last November, a stunning lawsuit by Cassie claimed that she was the victim of a pattern of abuse, violence, and sex trafficking by Combs. At the time, Combs denied all wrongdoing and said that settling was not an admission of guilt.
And then the video came out. The video came out and we all saw that obviously Diddy was lying, which I predicted anyway. I'm just going to go forward a little bit because I know that can be disturbing for some people. But I'll go to the apology video. Yeah.
There's a point where she just stays on the ground.
It's so difficult to reflect on.
Combs, now 54, acknowledges assault of Cassie in a message posted on Instagram days after the video surfaced.
I was up. I mean, I hit rock bottom. But I make no excuses. My behavior on that video is inexcusable. I take full responsibility for my actions in that video.
Since Cassie's lawsuit, at least 8 others have followed. Combs has denied any wrongdoing. Don Richard first met Combs while filming the MTV reality show.
We just got to come out of that for just a second because of the music and the copyright. So give it just a second. So yeah, they were filming Making the Band. That's how this group was formed. I feel like you find out a lot about these groups later on after the fact. Let me bring it back in.
Was subjected to verbal abuse and deprived of basic needs such as adequate food and sleep. She claims they were sometimes forced to work up to 48 hours with no breaks. Richard also alleges that during the filming of Making the Band, she saw Kim Porter, Combs' ex-partner and mother of 3 of his children, leaving his recording studio in tears with visible facial injuries, including a lacerated lip.
Let's pause here and let's just touch on Kim Porter for just a second. You know, Kim Porter, apparently they said that she died from pneumonia. Some people dispute that. Some people think that it was him. And I've heard that from multiple people. They said she was in great health. How could this have just happened out of nowhere? I don't know. But it's apparent from hearing from a number of people that Diddy was an abusive person. So when I hear a new accusation, I'm not like, oh my God, I can't believe. No, because I saw the video footage of what he did to Cassie, right?
It's at that point, according to the lawsuit, that Richard says that she knew that Sean Combs was capable of assault and some of the most heinous acts towards the women.
So many people are trying to break into the music industry. No matter how they're treated on those shows, it's very hard for them to leave because this is their lucky break. This is their dream.
Richard went on to work with Combs in another group called Diddy Dirty Money.
Like Puff says, it feels good to work with a team. I'm better with a team.
According to her lawsuit, the harassment didn't stop. Richard says Combs groped her multiple times.
She claims that while in the dressing room, he would be there groping her buttocks under the auspice of This is where I want her underwear to be showing. This is where I want her pants to be cut. This is where I want her top to be fitted.
It was around this time, the lawsuit says, that Richard was witness to multiple acts of violence against Combs' then-girlfriend, Cassie. In one incident, she alleges that in front of dinner guests, Combs forcefully punched Cassie in the stomach, causing her to double over in visible pain, crying.
Don Richard.
You want to know who was apparently present at that? Usher.
Describes this one instance where Cassie is apparently making breakfast in the kitchen, and Diddy comes downstairs. She describes him as drug-addled, apparently high, and just starts yelling at Cassie. Diddy picks up the frying pan full of eggs and whatever and hurls it at her, causing Cassie to duck into a fetal position. And she said this is what made her, Don Richard, to be so afraid of him and what he was capable of.
There was also a financial toll. Richard claims she's owed upwards of $3 million for her work as an artist.
In the music industry, sexual harassment and sexual abuse of women is tolerated. A lot of very high-level people are complicit. Women suffer. Women are overly sexualized. They're discarded like trash after they complain. And a reckoning is long overdue.
It's very difficult for you to get a job with another record label, for you to get signed by another record label, or for another music producer to be willing to work with you, because what those guys will do, particularly those music producers, they will run your name like through the industry and tell people not to work with you. They'll blackball you. This has happened to a number of people. It doesn't just happen in the music industry. It also happens in Hollywood as well, whereas they'll tell people that you're difficult to work with because you refuse sexual advances from them or you complained about it. And the next thing you know, you're just completely out of that business altogether, right?
It takes a lot of people coming forward until somebody is believed against a very powerful person in the music industry.
Yes. All right. So Diddy again. And then this was the part here about the raid. Remember when his house was raided?
Feds earlier in the spring.
And his name is now sullied by allegations that he denies, that he insists he will fight, but he is also facing a criminal investigation. The biggest threat that he faces is the prospect of criminal charges. Diddy, who once seemed untouchable in the world of entertainment, could in theory put him into prison.
Yeah, I want to answer this question too from Lai C. Says, why did Cassie stay? The money, why would she stay? He's famous. She could easily leave and he'll have no recourse, then sue him for abuse like she did eventually. I think part of the problem is like Diddy tended to prey on, these were younger women. This girl was really young. I thought Cassie was really young at the time. And a lot of times, like, you don't know, like, what home they're coming from. Maybe their parents have never had this conversation with them. You never know. But they tend to try to prey on younger girls who are just afraid. They're afraid to leave, right? The other thing is the money issue. As we've all been talking about, and they've talked about in here, it was very clear to me that Diddy owed some people some money. You know, he owed some of these artists some money because he wasn't paying them. I would assume the case was probably similar with Cassie as well, where he probably didn't pay her what she was supposed to be paid. And so because of that, it's like, where are you going to go? What are you going to do? We don't know what her home situation was like with her parents. We don't know if she could go back to her parents' house. You never know. And oftentimes, like, they'll find these girls that particularly may not have the best home life or home environment. Remember, they said that R. Kelly was picking up girls from the high school, right? So we don't know. I think that is a question for Cassie, to be honest. But from what I saw in that video, it looked like she was just very afraid of him. But yes, so former member of Danity Kane, Dawn, is now accusing Diddy of sexual assault as well. So does not look good for the did.